Every religious practitioner and worship centre must be registered with a recognised umbrella body. This is according to the CLR Commission, which was releasing a report into abuse of people's belief systems. The commission, chaired by Togo Mkwanazi-Qaluva, said the CLR would accredit the umbrella organisations. A pre-review committee must also submit regular reports on members, which would determine their continued registration. The CLR had probed incidents where pastors fed congregants snakes, grass and petrol, among other questionable practices. The final report has been presented to the Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Portfolio Committee in Parliament.
Freedom of association. Everyone has a right to freedom of association, that's Section 18. And then, which is also critical, Section 22, talks to freedom of trade, occupation and profession. It says every citizen has the right to choose their trade, occupation, or profession freely. The practice of a trade, occupation, or profession may be regulated by law. That's what the Constitution says. So if you choose to be a pastor, you've chosen your occupation, your trade, your profession freely, but the Constitution says you may be regulated by law. Section 31(1) then says persons belonging to a cultural, religious, or linguistic community may not be denied the right with other members of the community to enjoy their culture, practice their religion, and use their language. Be it to form, join, and maintain cultural, religious, and linguistic associations and other organs of civil society. 2, the right in subsection 1 may not be exercised in a manner inconsistent with any provision of the Bill of Rights, including human dignity. It's quite significant to what we're proposing and recommending. Our recommendations are mainly based on what we were told during hearings, and out of those hearings and what the religious sector told us, we then said, how do we take the country forward? How do we make sure that all those horror stories we hear every day are not sustainable? And thereafter, we then sat down, looked at what is happening in the country, what is happening in the continent, what are lessons to be learned. We're at a stage where the report is there, it's in Parliament. Parliament is supposed to be having hearings on it, and whether Parliament is going to go to the High Court to challenge the report or not is in their hands now. So we're saying to the public, here is the report, we're releasing it to the public now that we've done what we need to do as far as Parliament is concerned. But that the report is at a stage where if you don't like what we're recommending, you then go to the High Court to challenge what we're recommending to us for a review by the High Court.
ANN7 reporter Nomusa Pungula joins us live from Johannesburg on the story. Nomusa, can you just take us through some of the key points of this report released by the Commission today?
Well, thank you so much. Good day to you and good day to our viewers. Just to take you through some of the recommendations that have been made by the CLR Rights Commission. One of them is being that there are many departments that could play a huge role in making sure that this kind of practice is eliminated in our country. They've made an example of the Department of Trade and Industry, saying that there are many items that are being sold in these churches, yet they are not properly regulated. For example, the kind of advertisings that are made for these items that are being sold at churches. There are many things that are being sold, or there are many things that are being bought or made by the church to be sold to the congregants, yet there is no regulation of those things that are being sold. But also, SARS can also play another role in making sure that this money that comes in and out of the churches is actually taxed in a manner that it's supposed to be taxed. And also the Department of Social Development point, because some of these churches are registered as non-profit organizations. Therefore, the department needs to make sure that they monitor those churches that are registered as NPOs, because NPOs also have their own regulations. But one major one that the chairperson spoke about was the one of foreign pastors not having laws that are governing them, or the laws that tell them as to how are they supposed to practice in this country. Basically, what the pastors or the reverends or the ministers are doing, it's not regulated by any law in our country, in such a way that when they get to South Africa, they are sent to Department of Labor, but Department of Labor sends them back to Department of Home Affairs, who then pushes a waiver and grant them that work permit, which does not stipulate as to in what conditions are they allowed to work. You may come to South Africa having said that you are a religious leader, but whatever that you do afterwards, once you've received your work permits, no one regulates it, no one monitors it, that in fact, indeed, you are operating as a religious leader. But another thing that the Commission has recommended is that all these religious leaders need to be registered by the CLR Commission. The CIPRO from the Department of Trade and Industry should no longer be allowed to register these people, because at the end of the day, the CLR Rights Commission does not have a comprehensive database of all the religious practitioners as well as the worship centers. Any place that is opened, anyone can go and open a church there and get people to be part of their congregants. But also another thing they mentioned was that there's quite a dispute between the local and the foreign religious leaders, where now the foreign leaders, foreign religious practitioners, they come to South Africa, they occupy a space, and you find that that space is next to a church that has been there for quite some time, and now all the congregants move to the new church, which now causes a dispute between the one that has been there for a very long time. But at the end of the day, the decision, or now the report, is in the hands of the National Assembly. It is the one that now needs to take a step, as much as the CLR Rights Commission made sure they mentioned that at the end of the day, this is a very urgent matter. However, the National Assembly has its own processes that they need to follow in engaging these reports and either adopt or reject it. However, the chairperson made it clear that should the National Assembly accept the recommendation as they are, South Africa can wait for change, or they must know that there will be change and order in this particular sector. But most importantly, she mentioned that the sector itself, there are so many people that have been practicing in the sector for quite some time. They need to now show their peers or tell their peers that now what you are doing is not what we are doing. It's outside the scope of what we are supposed to be doing. But at the end of the day, if there are no complaints going forward, there is nothing that the CLR Rights Commission can do. There is SAPS that needs to make sure that they look at all the complaints that are being lodged, but at the end of the day, these congregants, they do all these things willingly, they volunteer. However, when we watched a movie that was being played, or a video clip that was being played earlier on, just before the report was tabled to us, one of the pastors mentioned that some of these congregants, they end up engaging in these things not in the normal way that they are supposed to be, or they are now not in the stable mind state that they are supposed to be. So therefore, there is an element of hypnosis in that issue there as well, Nomfundo. But as well, the CLR Rights Commission did mention that during this whole investigation process, they did include professionals, you name your psychologists, who also confirmed that at the end of the day, these people are not at their right state of mind, so to make them conduct or engage in such practices, because at the end of the day, the chairperson said that it's some sort of level of desperation that makes them allow themselves to be used in this manner, because there is no normal person or sane person that can go and eat grass, knowing that grass is not something that is eaten. So it's basically just like that, Nomfundo.
No, thank you very much, Nomusa Pungula, talking to us, or talking us through the report by the CLR Commission that was released today, just talking about various recommendations, such as the DTI coming to the party in terms of regulating those goods that are sold to congregants, as well as SARS also playing a role in taxing some of these practitioners.